Hello and welcome back to Dial the Gates, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. Appreciate you joining me for another unboxing. This particular episode is dedicated to a fan who has submitted, Stargate fan who has submitted content to the show before, Martin McClean. He's created a few different pieces for us so far, a touchstone, a Nakrita generator, a Palm Pilot from Stargate Atlantis. And today I have something brand new to show you that I haven't even seen yet, hence the unboxing. So let's take a look at what he's got for it. It's a puddle jumper. Okay, I mean, you read the title card, you know what it is. Let's open it up and see what we've got inside. I came prepared this time. All right. He sent this to me weeks ago. And he's been like, when are you gonna open it up? I'm like, when I'm good and ready. I'm ready to do this. And he's been concerned that something's broken on the inside. I'm like, why would it be broken? You pack like, you know, you're going to Mars. All right, so let's see if he owned the last mile, as he calls it. Ooh, I like these. You can sit on them in the car. Okay. It's smaller than I expected. I expected much, much bigger. Let's take a look. Stargate Puddle Jumper, cut here, horizontal. Well, cut where? It was here? Uh-oh. Cut here, horizontal. Maybe that's what he meant. Let's find out. Ow! Well, it's my cut for the day. Operating the puddle. Wow, look at this. Operating the jumper. Powering the puddle jumper. All right, we're gonna go through this in just a minute. Let's have a look. Important. Remove this insert by lifting upwards. Carefully lift the puddle jumper up by grabbing it around the middle of the ship and lifting slowly upwards. All right. Okay. Remove this insert by lifting upwards. Oh, I should have done that first. Ah, I love it already. He's concerned that the batteries aren't going to have lasted. So we'll see. I bet the lithium ion still has a charge. It's like a little loaf of bread. When I first saw the puddle jumper, it was at a preview episode, like the week before the pilot had aired. And I saw this thing fly through. I'm like, that was the first thing that went through my head. A green loaf of bread just flew through a space gate. Wow. He packed it very well. Aww. Look. The paint. The paint job is just insane. Look at that. Wow. What a job. Dude, you are so good at this. But it is dead, so I am about to charge it, and we're going to go have a look at it. So, all right. Let's turn it on. Instructions, thorough, of course. Power up the puddle jumper. Locate the power switch in the rear of the puddle jumper and switch it to on. Turning on the power will activate the front cabin lighting, sound effects, and the main flight console lighting. Down, down. Jesus, look at that. That's so cool. Wow. Man, oh man. Okay. Operating the sound effects. The puddle jumper supports 2 sound effects, a cloaking effect and an in-flight sound effect. To engage the cloak, press the button on the rear door of the jumper. You will hear the cloaking sound. When the ship is cloaked, the cockpit console lighting will also change from blue to orange. If you press the sound effects button on the rear door again, the decloaking effect will engage and the cockpit console lighting will change from orange to blue. Sounds awfully Star Trek-y to me. That's really, it's pretty legit though. Wow, okay. Deploying the drive pods. The puddle jumper is a synchronized set of drive pods that will automatically broadcast deployment sound effects. To deploy the puddle jumper drive pods, locate the drive pod slider on the rear of the jumper, push the drive pod slider to the right, synchronously deploying. To complete drive pod deployment, push the engines into flight position with your finger. Repeat on both drive pods. Okay. Wow. It's in flight. How cool is this? You know who would be really impressed would be Bridget McGuire. I'm gonna have to send this to her because she came up with this ship. So, what a beauty. What a marvel of design, Martin. Closing drive pods. Before you close them, make sure you move the engines back to the closed position. Push down with your finger. Do not try to close them with the engines deployed. You could break them. To retract the drive pods, make sure the engines are pushed down and locate the drive pod slider and push it to the left, synchronously retracting both drive pods. Wow, the sound on that is really loud. Very, very nice. And Martin did all the art, so very good, man. Very, very good. It's just a beautiful piece. And it's nice and compact. I loved the lighting effect where it came on in stages. Man. It's just legit work, buddy. You've done a stand-up job. Other than that, that doesn't want to stand up. But you know what? I love that you can see the like the teeth, like how he did it on each side here. So interesting. I wonder if that's his design choice, because otherwise I've never seen that before. I thought they were both at the same length, but that may be just how he decided to rig it. So. Really cool. Now in the box, he had a couple of other things. So let's have a look. Dial home device. I wasn't expecting this. So let's have a look. Oh, this is for the Stargate stands. So the ones that Master Replicas put out. So let's have a look at this now, and we'll put this with it when we do the unboxing for that next week. Or in my case, 10 minutes. Ah. Even foliage. That's where we can put the Asgard cloaking device for the tear nods. Wow. Looky there. And the Jaffa lines. Just a really, really beautiful piece, man. Yeah. Love the detail. The stuff that these 3D printers can do now is just extraordinary. You can hardly tell the printing lines. You just can't find it. So we're going to put this with the Master Replicas piece for the Milky-Way Stargate stand that he's got. We're going to check that out. But let's have a look at those. Off-world Stargate platform Milky Way. Okie dokie. He made a tan one, like a sand colored version, and I was like, you know, I really like if you're gonna do one for me, I'd really like a stone one to match it made a couple of different off-world pedestals, and I really like to have the stone one to match the original that was created for Chulok and generally seen the most frequently after. Wow. Impressive. The stone detailing, the little plants. He's just so damned good. Oh, the Milky Way gate is thinner than I expected. What a beautiful piece. Dude, you've really outdone yourself. You're going to be seeing these again next week when we unbox the Master Replicas SG-1 Atlantis gates.
Martin McClean, SGA Gate Builder. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, David. How are you? Lovely to see you.
I am well. I apologize for taking so much time to unpack these toys that you mailed weeks ago. I'm sure you've been like, because it's like, I hope it's not broken. I hope it's not broken, you know, and because it's arrived. This guy and I have had these conversations for like over a month, and I'm sure he's thinking about to himself, he's like Patrick Renna in the sand, like you're killing me, Smalls. Just open the damn thing. What are you waiting for? So it arrived, and I'm really sorry to say, man, that it is in one piece.
Oh, wonderful. Come on.
So, um,
USPS and have not let us down.
nope, they did not. And
Wonderful.
she she a beauty for sure. So
Awesome. Oh,
very,
great.
very nice. Yeah. So I've just done the whole unboxing from everyone else's point of view, so they're all brought up to speed on this thing. Have you always wanted to do this?
Yes. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I think it was, I'm going to say James Robbins put out a model of it. Just a 3D printed version that you could download and print out. But the problem with it was that it was never optimized for 3D printers. At the
James Robbins, the production designer?
I'm pretty sure it's the same person that did it.
It would be, probably.
And a great model, but it was never optimized for 3D printing. And so I decided that, and also you can't really modify the files that much, due to the fact that they belong to someone else, and also because it's difficult to edit those type of files. So what I decided to do was build my own, because I wanted to put electronics in there. I wanted to put physical movement in there and try and incorporate the movement of the pod doors out and in, etc. So I wanted to make sure all of that was working. And I had previously looked at the other files and thought I could backward engineer them in that. I could print them out and maybe drill holes in them and things like that, but it just didn't work. And so I decided, nope, it's time for me to make one.
Gotcha.
And so you're holding the result.
Wow. And what a result it is. I'm curious if James Robbins put out a file and it wasn't meant to be 3D printed, what was it made for? Do you have an inkling?
I think it was meant to be printed, but I don't think when the CAD work was designed, someone was thinking about how it's optimized for a 3D printer.
So he dropped an older file.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were like, there were doors and there was a hull and there was and bits were connected together. And so if you tried to print those out, there's a massive amounts of complexity in getting nice, very smooth and clean prints out of that. And so it wasn't really very optimized for speed or time. Although that puddle jumper did take a long time to print because
the one right here?
Big. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Big. I think so too. No, I mean, but I was expecting it to be larger, and I think that this size is perfect because it kind of fits an IKEA shelf. So, how did you land on this particular size?
IKEA, mostly.
Good minds.
I thought,
great minds.
Someone's got to put this on a shelf, and it can't be that big. So I thought I'll modify it so that it fits perfectly on an IKEA shelf.
Wow.
So that's what I did. And I think it will fit in, well, it will fit in their display cabinets and things like that. So if people are sort of going to make one themselves or something like that, it will definitely fit in there.
Is this your CAD file from the ground up?
Yes. Everything is from the ground up.
Wow.
There is nothing used from anywhere else. Everything, all the electronic design, the coding, the complete computer-aided design, everything. Even the sound effects are my creation.
Oh, I detect a there's some bird of prey stuff happening there, man. That's all I'm saying.
The modification. Designed it as best I could, based it on what I thought it should sound like, rather than obviously have to, respect the intellectual.
Of course. Absolutely. No. I can use it to decloak the Dial the Gate logo at the beginning, but other than that, no one else can. So
that's right.
No, it's from the moment that you started developing the CAD file to the final paint job on your first version, how much time are we talking about here?
5.5 months on this one. Normally it wouldn't take me that long. The original design for the jumper came out pretty quick. I probably finished that in a couple of weeks. But then I decided there's actually a history here, there's a chronology of it, because there's two different versions. There is a version that has manual bay doors that open and close. And so there's that one, and that was the original one. And then I said to myself, you know what, I think this could be better, because you're having to manually pull out one pod and then the other one. And it was more complicated from a sound effects point of view and stuff like that. So I decided that I would make it a little easier by designing a synchronized pod drive system. But that made it much more difficult than I thought. And the reason...
But you love a challenge.
I love a challenge, but this one almost drove me out of my tree, because I was trying to get it to... The problem was the doors would shut, but one door wouldn't be quite closed. And so, long story short, there's like a delay in all of these cogs that are inside it.
Oh, it's down to the mechanics of it. It wasn't that particular. Okay.
One door would slightly close faster than the other, and then eventually you'd get this bit where this one would sort of slightly be out.
Interesting.
And so it wasn't too big a problem. 37 designs later, it was fixed.
37? You're kidding.
Yeah, and ironically...
You're not kidding.
I'm not kidding, but I'm ashamed to admit the easiest design worked best.
Occam's razor.
Yeah, it was so over-engineered. I thought, oh, this is so me, typical engineer. I just over-engineered.
One of the first things I noticed when the drive pods were opened and I looked down from above, one arm was up here and one arm was down here. And I was like, the entire time, I'm like, is that how it was in the show? Or did he sacrifice that for the design?
I sacrificed it for the design.
Yeah, but it's still cool.
It works really well, but in the show they have the luxury of being able to render something as a computer graphic when they feel like it, or change something around. And we don't have that luxury, right? It's got to work in a practical world for us to. So
they do sleight of hand, especially with the drive pods innards. There wouldn't be room for that and have the cockpit or the back of the thing as wide as the chamber as wide as it is.
Yeah, I worked out that if I was to put the interior into the puddle jumper, it would probably make it 3 times as big. So, which just seemed prohibitive for anyone trying to put it on a shelf, or for even myself trying to find, room for it and things like that. So, but the puddle jumpers, it's kind of an interesting model from a Stargate perspective, because there's like about 5 different iterations of the cockpit, and massive amounts of color changes. And like, I don't think it shows up on camera here, but the one you've got, and even the one I've got back here, is it's much darker when you see it in reality than it is on the computer screen. So if I hold mine up, it looks a lot brighter than it actually is when you get it. And so a lot of people said to me, well, it's too bright, but it's not when you get it. So
it's a green print?
No, it's not a green print. There are 9 different layers of paint on that particular model.
So what is it that you're seeing on screen then that would be different after you painted it? I guess I don't understand.
No, so it depends. It's a studio lighting issue, right? Because depending on whether you rendered it on set, you might see one of the principal actors standing next to it on set. It's studio lit, so it has a certain amount of green tinge, etc. But then when they CGI this thing, they're not sort of thinking the same way.
I understand now. We're coming down again on the conversation of the puddle jumpers paint in lighting. All kinds of different lighting situations. And you have to land on one and call it quits.
Yeah.
And they get to change it with every different lighting configuration there is at will.
And they do. Like some of them, the puddle jumper started off olive green, and then in the end, the color that's on mine is a custom one to try and match the later series, which had a much darker green, and then the earlier series, which was more olive in the first season. So, and even if you look at Mobius from SG-1, there's some nice shots in there of the puddle jumper, but I call it the SG-1 version because it seems to be more beige in there and stuff like that. And then when we got to Atlantis, it was slightly greener. And
I'll bet that's on purpose. I bet the thought process behind it was that Janice was like, well, if I'm going to build another one of these things in the Milky Way, I might as well change some of it up a little bit. I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah.
I think so. And the one thing you get from designing this low is a real sense of appreciation of what a great job they did when they designed this. And not only the idea that it's round, and it has to be, of course, because it goes through the Stargate, but it's just the way they've cut out the shape, things like that. I mean, they made my life a misery for a little while. But other than that, I mean, I'm sure they didn't set out to go, well, make Martin's life a misery by making this difficult to design.
Did you?
But
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Finish your
No,
thought.
there's just a lot of angles, in it and it looks round. It's not exactly round at all. It's slightly off round. And I've seen some people that have done a great job also creating their own puddle jumpers. I haven't seen any like mine that has all of the different interior and the lights and the consoles and what have you all lighting up. But there's a lot of people have, different fronts to the model, and some of it looked like early production, which is not what we saw when television show went to air. It was somewhat different. So it was a very interesting challenge to do, and I think it was worth going back and synchronizing the drive pods. I think in the end, this ability to just slide it from the back and it sort of opens up is a really nice feature.
No, it's really smooth.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, it took a while to get that right, but there's not a lot of room in there. That's the only problem, I think.
I saw you sacrifice some of the front cabin room. You made it shorter. So I don't. I think there's only only one set of chairs, I think.
There's only one set of chairs.
Yeah.
This is interesting too, because in some of the show there's only 2 chairs, and then in other shots there's 4 chairs.
I never noticed that.
Right? And and then in some shots there's like, I think behind Rod McKay in one of the shots in Atlantis there is like a console as well that's sitting behind the chair, which conveniently appeared and then disappeared. The following
week. Like the Palm Pilot's in the wall.
Yeah.
They think it and it appears. I'm sure there's a few things like that, for different, like the Delta Flyer and Voyager had mission modules. Yeah. They just literally swap the back of the ship out, whereas in this thing, they probably had all kinds of consoles that they could call upon if they needed to for different missions.
I love the Delta Flyer though. I mean, that was a beautiful design. I don't know who
very
did that.
Different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a great fan of Voyager as a television show. Mm-hmm. I thought
it had some cool designs.
Cool designs, great cast, Kate Mulgrew and others. Just a really champagne casting. I mean, it was a great show. But
with this, did you intend to? Am I seeing 9 levels of paint diffused with each other, like skin, or am I seeing like the top 3? And it's like, no, David, I tried 9 different layers until I got to this configuration.
No, you're seeing probably the top 3. Or maybe 4 coming through, because there's like a base. There's base coats, and then there's the base green coat, and then there's like a sort of a stippled a brown, and then a gold and copper in there, and then there's more green, and then there's sort of lacquer and stuff like that.
Did you use sponges? What'd you use?
No, I used different stippling brush.
There's a stippling brush specifically.
Stippling brush. I also use, it's not all stippled though from brush. Some of it is also from like a stippling sponge as well. So, and it's interesting that when you go back and you look at all of the Atlantis sets, you notice that everywhere after you start to see it on the jumper. And I think it really makes it much more interesting to the eye and gives it much more depth.
Mm-hmm.
And on the surface of it, it looks like it's easier to do, but it isn't, because you can be very ham-fisted with that if you're not careful, and then one color overwrites the other, and then before you know it, it looks really good.
It's like the 80s with synthesizers. Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
It also gives it a look of age, like really old. And I don't know if that's just me associating it with Atlantis and the time frame that we have an idea Atlantis is within, but it gives it this time-worn venerability is not the word that I want, but it's the one I'm going with. So it's just there is a and this lighting is atrocious for it, but there's a quality to it that's almost like fingerprints, Yes. And I'm assuming each each jumper is unique from that perspective because you've hand applied these things. So
Yeah, there's only 4 in existence.
there's 2 more. Okay.
Yeah, Darren has one,
Okay.
and then you have one, I have one, and then there's one other. So there's only 4.
Okay.
There may be 5, but there probably won't be more than 5. They take a long time to build because, as you quite rightly point out, everyone's is a little bit unique. They're not all they're identical if you look at them. If you sort of like if I get mine here, bring it, sort of show it to you, it's kind of, it's very similar to yours, right? It looks very similar. It looks the same at the back, and it's got all the lighting effects, and I don't know whether they'll come through on this for you. But,
yeah, somewhat.
Yeah. So all the lighting effects.
Yeah.
All in
Is
there.
that the original?
This is the original.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the original. Well, the absolute original, of course, was that one that just had dry pods that went out manually. That one, I don't know, suffered some damage. When I was modifying it and making the prototype for the V2.
And you had the one that was like twice this size that was to the action figure scale.
Yes. Yeah, I did. I had a huge one for the cockpit that was enormous. And I worked out that was, I think it's 3 or 4 feet long. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's quite big. There's not many, people at IKEA going, we just can't do this. We just can't do this anymore.
This is a centerpiece. It's more than a centerpiece. It's half the Thanksgiving table.
So. Half the IKEA shelving people walked away and went, no, we're not doing it.
Wow.
Buy a table. So,
man. So how long does it take to create one of these now that you have your system in place? How many hours do you think you put into it to create each one?
Well, probably about...
printing and everything.
Yeah, probably about 200 plus hours.
God, man, this is so much work.
It is a lot. Because it's a lot better now because I finished all the coding and I finished, and so I have a method now to do it. And then I wrote a 35-page instruction manual on how to build it. So
that's a completely separate. That's thundering outside. Sorry, that's a completely separate problem.
Yes.
Man.
So I realized I didn't have to do that, but I thought at one point if it ends up online for folks, then I want them to have this nice color step-by-step manual that they can walk through. Literally, if they follow the dots, they're going to get that at the other end. So, and the electronics is kind of up to people. There's a lot of all the wiring holes and everything is in there, so you can put your own in.
Yeah.
And I created 3 different doors for the back, so that if you just don't want any electronics, you don't have to have it. You can just put a basic door on the back. Or if you just want one with the slider and not all the speakers and all that sort of stuff, you can do that too. So it's pretty modular. But that took a little while as well.
Tell me about the electronics. What size of milliamp battery is in this thing?
I think there is... it's not very big. It's only about 1.5 inches square, but not thick. It's only maybe, I don't know, it's really quite thin.
Okay.
But but it should power the electronics for quite some time. The circuit's quite clever because you can plug it in and use it on power and it will simultaneously recharge the battery at the same time for you. So it's not like you have to go one without the other. If it's run out of battery, you can't use it. That's not the way it works. It'll automatically charge the battery up for you. It usually takes about an hour or so because it's slow trickle charge. But then it should last for a long time.
How long did it take to work out the electronics?
Well, it helps being an electronic engineer. I'm going to be honest.
So you're not starting from square one.
I'm not getting the box out going, does different colored current flow in different colored wire? So I'm not exactly doing that. But it took quite a while. It's nice to have it now because now I can transplant sound and lights and effects into any model. And your puddle jumper comes with accelerometers built in, which means that I can give it a software upgrade. And when you take the jumper and you move it in different directions and things, it will start to do different sound effects. And so I'm going to send you the software update when
So that one this doesn't have that yet.
It doesn't have that yet, but you have the sensors already on board.
Oh
So
my gosh.
just send you the software file. It'll take you 30 seconds to drag it across on your USB cable. And
So USB-C has access to the folders.
Yes. Yep, it has access to
You really thought ahead.
Yeah, so, well, I had to, because I knew one day you would call me and go, do you know what would be really good if it could do this? And then I thought, well, I better have it so that I can upgrade it on the fly.
Can it dim the LEDs?
Yes.
We're probably going to have to do that because, like with Williams here, he had to test it for iteration after iteration with cameras in mind so that it wouldn't look blown out, so that all the detail would be there. So, and the thing with Jaren's puddle jumper, with Jaren's SGU gate, it's pretty perfect. There's a USB slot that's accessible on his. It's got a cap on it, but he's given me instructions to update the code. And speaking of Jaren, people have been asking, isn't his gate cool?
I love it. Absolutely.
People have been asking him in the comments feed under the unboxing the working Stargate, can we please have the instructions? And creating something is one thing. Putting it together yourself, iteration after iteration after iteration, getting it dialed in.
Yeah.
Telling someone how to do that through images and instructions is a completely different skill set. And you have them both in equal measure here, relatively.
I have the advantage that I've published books before.
You're a designer,
So that allows me to be able to at least get inside the mind of the maker and go, well, they don't know much about it, and then lead them along. But that's why it's so heavily pictorial, which is why the manual's so long, because I wanted people to see all the different blocks and the colors and just slot it all together like a bit of a Lego kit, so that it really wasn't that difficult. But they should be able to, print the pieces out fairly easily, and it's designed so that they shouldn't, if they don't have a big printer, it's not too bad, and they can look around it. But the electronics did take a while, but it's extraordinarily flexible. Like I said, it has accelerometers built in. It has all sorts of sensors that we'll take use of moving forward. The cockpit lighting's interesting. The LED lighting, all of it can be adjusted in color and in brightness.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the little lights in the back can do that as easy. But anyway, there's lots of functionality there that we can change it. I originally wanted to put several extra software features in there, but I just haven't got around to it yet because I'm trying to finish the next project. But it's so this felt like designing two puddle jumpers. I got the first one to completion. I wrote the full manual for that, and then I thought, no, it needs to have this synchronizing drive pods.
No.
I need to have better chairs inside and stuff. And so then it kind of, so it was like doing it twice, which is why it took me much longer than I think it normally would. In the 3D printing world, your enemy is tolerances, making sure that everything fits together right and everything, the slots and the holes go. And like, you can't see it, but inside the electronics, there's a special motherboard in there with, that the electronics is designed to sit into and stuff like that, so that it just makes it easy to put together.
But again, you have to land on what it is that you want. You can't go all Howard Hughes, just iteration after iteration. You have to arrive at a stopping point. It's not finished, it's abandoned. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, perfection is the enemy of completion, right? So something that's advice I should listen to sometimes and don't. So that's the enemy of completion. But I think ultimately, Adam Savage will tell you this. There's a point at every project where you just hit a wall, and you think, I'm just done with this. I just, and you have two choices. You can either go forward or you can go back. And in the case of the drive pods, when they were creating so much trouble, I thought, oh, maybe this is time to stop. But then, I think, no, I don't really want to. I don't want this to. Then it becomes a challenge, and you think, oh.
So you moved forward and continued to work it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
also there has, I'm curious, just as a designer from a creative perspective, often find, as is the case with many people, that when I stop thinking about it, when I go and completely change my circumstances, even for days, often things will occur to me that I hadn't considered before because it was sitting too close to me all the time, just staring me in the face, the problem. Maybe even proverbially, maybe not, maybe in my mind, it's staring at me in the face. Did you find that to be the case for any part of this project?
Yeah, the drive system did that to me.
Got it.
In the end, like I said, the solution was so simple, but I had done a much more complicated system than I needed. But the solution came. I woke up one night and thought, "Oh, that's how to do it," and thought, "That's not good. You should be sleeping. You should not be waking up thinking about this." But so I woke up one night and I thought, "Oh, yeah, that's it." And I should have written it down. I didn't. And then the next morning I'd forgotten it again.
Oh, no. So you had to come up with it again?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And then I thought, okay, write it down next time. But I think, you learn lots and lots of things. And that's why, I always say to people, ultimately the outcome for me is if this inspires somebody else to go and make an even better one, then I would be very happy about that. I'm not proprietorial about design here. I mean, I'm trying to take something that sort of James and all the great folks on the design team did and make it more accessible to people who just want to celebrate their design.
You're doing what I do. You're creating something out of whole cloth and you're turning it over for free, Yeah. And it's also really handy because it's also owned by Jeff Bezos.
Exactly. I mean, and you can't, if you were, this is a passion project. You can't, if you think, I'm talking to, preaching to the converted, right? Because, you're not making money out of this table any more than I am out of mine. And that's not the aim. The aim is to come up with these things and put designs out there that people can use.
Yeah.
And sometimes people ask me, can you make me one? And if I have time, I'll do that. But it's not like there's 25 available or something.
You're challenging yourself. You're making something beautiful, and you're pushing the outer boundaries. If you're doing, yourself, all the credit in the world. You're pushing the outer boundaries of your expertise in the arenas that you're in. And I would consider that not at all to be time wasted. That's what we do with Dial the Gate. And the end result is something that people can enjoy. Yeah,
if you look at how Dial the Gate is today, compared to maybe when you did your first episode and the evolution that you've gone through.
Night and day.
It's night and day, right? You learn lots of things. The Puddle Jumper was a combination of things I learned from the Naquita generator and et cetera, and lots of things like that. I am going to upgrade the Naquita generator, though, so that it has sound and a couple of other features in there. And somebody once said to me, wouldn't it be good if it had a speaker in it, like Bluetooth? And I thought, that's a good idea.
It doesn't shake it to pieces over the course of 10 years, you have to have that in consideration.
Yeah, it's the subwoofer that's the problem.
I will tell you, Martin, if I can return this one to you to get some modifications done and back for, $100 or less, for a whole cycle, the most time that I spend on this set is changing the batteries in that thing.
Well, that's why the life-size scanner and the puddle jumper and the door control all rechargeable. Because I looked at that and thought, if David's spending what I'm spending on batteries, he's going to come over to my house.
These are rechargeable. Not at all.
Yeah,
these are rechargeable. But the nice thing about the nice thing that I love about this one is that after a time, I wish that we could make the marching ants slower because some people have complained about the flicker. So I've put a piece of tape on the back so it doesn't reflect on the wall, the other side. So that's really cut it down. But most of the show is like this normally, and it's out of the way for people. But then a beautiful side effect of the batteries running low is that it gets this self-destruct kind of hue to it which I don't think you intended, and it's created this really pretty effect over the course of a lot of shows, which I'm sure you've seen because you're a good loyal fan.
Yeah, I have seen it, and it goes quite red, and it's because once the battery drops below a certain voltage, the motherboard light is illuminating the arms.
Oh, I thought it was due to time dilation.
No, I'm afraid it wasn't anywhere near as clever as that.
The Naquita generator is getting close to a black hole.
Yeah. The new idea, though, would be to have one just like your puddle jumper where you just plug in the USB, and then if you need a customization, like the lights are going too fast or whatever, then we just send it through, and then it changes it, you know. That's the best way to do it. And I'm working like on the life sign scanner.
Yeah, I see you've made the same modification.
Yeah, I did it, but now this is the latest version. It's sort of
it's beautiful. I love the is it hexagons? Yeah,
there's hexagons there, but it's also like a sort of a clear, kind of a clear plastic.
Yeah, now. Like the original. And you're kind of leaning into it.
I can put that a bit closer. You can see it's kind of all of it. Bits are all actually fused into the plastic. They're not sort of add-ons and stuff like that.
It's really beautiful, dude. And you were able to 3D print that?
Yeah. Wow. And it's USB-C too, which is kind of nice. So you can do that. So that just made it one iteration closer to the screen used one, and try to keep it still with a bit of functionality in there. But so I did that with it. But there's quite a it's endless, really. I mean, you just think, well, there's only so many you can do, but well, there's so many I haven't even started yet. I mean, I'm working on
years of stuff.
Oh, there's years of stuff, and this sort of temptation to always go back and improve on something that you had before. And you'll make a comment to me, and I'll think, oh, I never thought of that.
I need to keep my friggin' mouth shut.
No, it's fine. I appreciate the feedback, actually. So it's good because it makes you think, oh, I could have maybe done that differently and changed it around. And that's how we ended up with the David Reed mode that's in the scanner, that's in the door control. Yeah,
and it talks to me when I switch over to it. I think it's pretty dead right now. Let me see here.
Yeah. It's
dead. Yeah. This one dies on me fairly fast. It's good for about 2.5 shows. So
yeah, I think it probably needs a bigger battery in there. It was funny because the postage service don't like batteries, so everything has to go ground.
Yeah, these things can explode under the right conditions.
Exactly. Although they're not really big and they're brand new, so they're relatively safe. But still, absolutely, we have to follow that guidance, and we should, and we do. So we do that. But there's a whole bunch of things that always pop up you don't expect. The Master Replicas gates came along, so I needed to do the stands for those. So yes.
If you guys hear, there's rain pounding on my window, so if you hear that, I do apologize, but I can't interfere with God's tea time out there. So go ahead. Yes, I love this. I love the ferns.
Yes,
they're so cute.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What this is you have taken the design from the show and McCleaned it. You've said, okay, this is what they had, but let's lean in this direction. And I'm curious to know where in your brain is the is it a desire to tweak, or is it just because it's going to be this thing rather than a set piece, I want to try it this way?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's necessity because I have a certain amount of space to put things in, and like the gate only is a certain size and it's a certain width, and so there's some sort of necessities come into it. In this case, this is the only time in all the models I've ever made I had a picture from production about the exact layout of the stone platform, and I'm pretty sure, David, it comes from season 1. I don't think it's.
I suspect that's true.
I'm pretty sure it's season 1, and in fact, I did one for Darren, but his is in sandstone, and I think it was you that asked me for the grapes.
I asked for, yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I'm not going to choose between my children, but I think this greystone looks pretty good with the gate.
I'm glad that he's got the Abydos one and I've got the Chulak one.
Yes,
That's great.
right.
That's really great.
Exactly right. He may come back and say, I want the Abydos one.
Well, you know what? You can go make it.
It was good. Like so it's pretty much a clone of what theirs was. It's got some slightly different brickwork. And
you do have the brick on either end, which I love here, that actually supported it in place. I don't know if it was cosmetic or if it was, actually functional. But if you look in the episode really closely, these little stone pedestals were on the pedestals.
And it was kind of crazy because it had to have this sort of feel that felt like stone.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have a texture and a granularity to it in its post-production in the painting work. So it had to have something that made it look like stone. It had to have an aged look about it so that it fitted with the gate. And then when Master Replicas did the Atlantis gate, they made it quite different. It's a lot thicker.
It's as it should be.
Yeah,
because it has that middle section that has the different shape to it, and everyone was saying the Atlantis gate is thicker. The Atlantis gate is thicker, and I'm remembering, thinking back on the show, no, it wasn't. And what they were referring to was the Master Replicas pieces. And
the original one's quite thin, isn't it?
It's very thin. Yeah, it's like they've cut it into thirds, cut out the center, and then stuck the front and back together. Yeah, if you see there, if you can bring it closer to the camera.
If I bring the other one up there.
Exactly, you can see with the Atlantis one, the SGC Stargate had that kind of a pattern to it. It's almost like a tire tread, like an ancient tire tread kind of feel to it. You can just see these things rolling down the hill in the factory. But the Atlantis gate is much, much truer to what the actual Stargate on the set was. So,
and that's why I put it into this.
Oh my gosh! Look at that, Martin. Oh, I want one.
I will send one.
Thank you, Martin. It's gorgeous. Look at that thing.
It's interesting because the design is. I should move that around a little bit so you can see that. Where's that? There we go. Sorry. The design's sort of trying to emulate the gate room. It took the staircase that goes up to Weir's office, and it took the floor molding and what have you from the floor. So around the actual gate, and it took some of the sort of cosmetic details that you see there.
I can see some of the ancient patterns. Did you pick a set of ancient text and copy and paste again and again?
Yeah, I just did that.
Yeah.
For somebody who's really, really keen, they'll decode what it means. But
no, it says something. Okay.
There's something, but we won't worry about that.
Okay.
It did make a difference, in the end. I think it because Master Replicas I thought did a really great job on this, but I just didn't love the stand as much, with due respect. Some people may love it. I didn't.
It needed the Pegasus logo.
Yeah, and I also wanted it to be IKEA-able in some way, so that it goes on the shelf. There's a theme running here.
They're as heavy as bricks. You can use them for door stoppers, those bases. They're 70% of the weight of the package. They're very nice, but if you don't like that look, you can go online and print yours.
Yeah,
there's the puddle jumper, everything. There's links for all of this in the description below. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, some of it is still being posted, so that'll be over the next week or two that'll get done. I also put when I did the Milky-Way platform, and I think I sent you one as well. There should be a little.
I was getting around to it. Yeah.
HD.
Yeah, we can hide the Asgard cloak right underneath the bush here. So.
You picked it up.
So the
good.
Rogan ID can get it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm assuming that's what that's there for.
That's exactly what it's there for, and you are the only person who has said that to me.
No, it's Colonel Makepeace is going to use it.
Yeah, I thought it was a clever moment. I thought I'm going to put the equivalent of a little Easter egg in here and put that at the base of it, and
right about where it was. That the position of it was the giveaway, because in the show it's kind of more stones, but when you
Yeah.
put it in that exact spot, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where his brain went. He may not be conscious of it. So hearing this, that you're
But no, I
that
did
you're
do it
referencing
consciously.
Shades of Grey, that's perfect.
I did do it consciously, and I thought no one is going to spot this. But I was wrong. I'm pleased. Someone did pick it up. Well done, David.
Well done, Martin.
Your encyclopedic knowledge of this shines through. So it was nice to do that. And I know that the other gate needs a DHD as well.
I mean, it is the Atlantis room, so I mean, I suppose you could design one of the grand pianos that they called them. But that would be a lot of work, and it would have lights and everything.
Yeah, originally what I wanted to do with this was I wanted to get the gate, and I have started it, and there's an insert that goes in the back which has an animated puddle. And so I've been working on that for a little while. I've got like a static. I did a 3D puddle, and that was okay. It was okay, and it glowed in the dark and stuff like that, which was good. But then I tried like a photographic one, and that looked better. But I think I would rather have something that was electronic in the back, and so that it created some sort of whoosh pattern and stuff like that.
I've got to share a Stargate World story about the puddle. I didn't have access to the puddle assets when I was working at Stargate Worlds, and the animators. There were 4 of them, and I hung out with the animators the most in terms of the designers. And they wrote me downstairs in the marketing team, and because I was constantly doing favors for the production floor, and they were like, "We really need the puddle." I'm like, how badly do you need it? Like the asset? They're like, "Well, we need something pretty darn close." I'm like, okay, I will get this to you. This is like 8 or 9 in the morning. 4 o'clock comes along. I've got the asset. I send it to them. Something similar that a fan designed that you cannot tell the difference because it's light, it's darker blue on the outside, and as it moves closer in, it gets brighter, as if there's some light source behind. We all know what it looks like. And the next day, I go up there to the animators, and I'm like, "How's it going?" They're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The puddle. The puddle you guys had me working on ended up all day, yesterday, to get this to you, this asset to you. You wanted it as close as you could, right?" They're like, yeah. Oh, it's great. And they hold up the toy Stargate, and they printed it out and put it in the center. Yeah, it's great for our collection. We love it. Like, you guys are such assholes. I thought you meant it for the game. You added it to your toy collection. Well, you have 200 toys on these desks. They're like, "We just wanted a puddle, man. Lay off." It's like, dudes, I spent how many hours working on this for you? So after that, I learned to ask the production team, "Okay, you need this? Yeah. What's it for?"
What's it for? Is it for the toy or is it for the game? I did once, about 5-6 years ago, I did a puddle animation, and it was really difficult to do. It looks great in the end, but simulating water and droplets and randomization of droplets in water and especially when the water has that sort of viscosity that it's kind of almost syrupy.
Very viscous, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not because it's not water, If that's just the water is the starting point for the design. But Bryce Orrs with Stargate Network, when he made his first person walkthrough, I don't know if you saw that episode. I'll also put a link in the description below, folks.
Yeah, please.
They cracked it. They got it. They created a loop. And you look at it, and if it does loop from the end to the beginning, I can't tell where it is. Like if they had this thing, it renders in real time. If they had this thing in 2005 when they were running the show, I mean, the amount of money that they could have saved on a lot of that stuff. It's just, it is a perfect render of the puddle. Yeah. And in our walkthrough, if you go and check out the video, we spent specifically spend time on appreciating the fact that they went through iteration after iteration to get it. These French, they can design, man. At least these guys can. They went through so many iterations to get it exactly right, and they nailed it.
Yeah. It's the passion that some people put into this is extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. And sometimes it never really gets the adulation from studios that it deserves, that the studio created something so great with an amazing cast, design, and a crew that people are willing to spend their free time and to emulate that and to pay homage to that.
The people who made it are appreciative of it. The production company, but Kawoosh and Stargate Productions, they all are blown away by a lot of this stuff. For James Robbins, for crying out loud, is handing some of these assets over years later, or some version of them for that reason. The corporate is another story. They're much more about
definitely. IP. Having worked in corporate forever, and especially from the technology side, I know how these things work, and so it's we're just very lucky with Stargate because the cast and crew, actors, etc. It's a very generous community. Access is generous. You and I have been to conventions together. Some of the people are just especially when you meet the cast and crew, are just so generous with.
They don't push you away.
No.
And in the case of like RDA, he stays hours later to make sure that everyone has a shot.
Yeah. And there's this wonderful thing where it's not only they're accessible, which in itself is extremely generous, but it's also that that when you're talking to people, cast and crew, it feels like you've known them for 10 years and you really only just met them, which I think is this amazing charisma and charm that just everyone on that production had. It was champagne casting from crew and cast. It really was, and I think it just really shines through.
It's consistent.
And that's why it's so cool.
It's consistent with every person that I bring on here, even the guest stars, because they all kind of put their feet in the wet cement of the show and kind of left a piece of their soul behind in it. So when we start talking about it, we're immediately on the same page in terms of how we feel about the art and how we appreciate the art, both cast and crew and audience. I talked with Lane Gates last week. Lane, it was in his episode, and then he became a Stargate fan. He watched the show through to the end. Jeff Golka is the same. He's gone back and fallen in love with the series. You should have seen. He took a picture of himself when Carson did Carson's thing in Sunday and sent it to me and Nicole. Just tears running down his face. And it was like some really very bad words that he gave to us and how much he hated us at that moment for getting him into this thing, but that the people who created it continually fall in love with it again and again and rediscover it is really cool. And the fact that it stands up after 20 friggin' years.
It's astounding, and it's because it's got great characters, it's got great stories, and it has something that you don't get anymore, which is somebody, Brad Wright and crew took the time to write characters that had depth, that had narrative, that had direction, and had growth. And
were relatable.
All relatable. And they always infused it with humor, which gave it this lovely balance. It wasn't too heavy, and it just, the whole family could sort of sit down and enjoy it.
But it wasn't too light either. It wasn't campy.
No,
I suppose some could call it campy, but I wouldn't.
Only Wormhole Extreme, which I adore. But,
right. Exactly. It's more like Doctor Who,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
the older Doctor Who.
We're very lucky because I think it was something that I'm going to say, I think Remington said this to me when we were all together not that long ago, and he said to me, we're very lucky to have, the 370 odd plus episodes because it's lightning in a bottle. You won't get it again. And I don't think you would if you think about how production works. And Netflix and others, you get 10 episodes. I saw Star Trek boast today, there's going to be 10 episodes this season. I thought, we used to get 22.
You get 26.
26
for
right?
TNG.
Yeah. I mean,
and
if you
not all of them were that good. So that's the nice thing about fewer episodes is that you get all the AAA stories that they had in their minds for the last 365, some odd days, rather than we got to fill a slot here too. So I go back and forth.
I think the thing is, Stargate tells this 300 plus or 370 plus episode story across a couple of series. And so there's this involvement that the audience can get. And even if they ran Stargate successfully for 5 years now, we'd have 50 episodes. 50
Exactly.
is 370, right? And so you don't quite get the same level, I think, of depth. That doesn't mean to say it won't be great. I'm sure that it will be, and I hope that it will be.
They were producing 40 hours of television per year for 3 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that. No way.
No,
That's insane.
You would be absolutely burnt out.
I'd be physically destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, those sort of hours, you're not there from 9 to 5. So it's those sort of hours are huge. And I think people don't realize that, when they look at it. But now, I think cast and crew there can look back on this incredible body of work. And not everyone will love every episode, but just almost without exception, I love just about every one of them. So I have my favorites, just like everybody. But I love Mobius, and I just have some real favorites in there. But I think it's a fantastic piece of work, and it's fun to design props and models and things around it. It would be lovely if someone came along and did it for us, but that's not always the case. So we'll just keep on designing our own.
Yeah, for sure. No, and there's the flip side of that is that if they started really, really punching out the Stargate merchandise, I have a feeling that legal would come after everyone who was doing something on the side. So maybe it's best just to let sleeping dogs lie, and make a curiosity for yourself here and there to give to a couple of friends, and to make sure that we tape them and take photos of them in all different sides to share them with everyone online, to appreciate the artistry that you've created.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think it's all about passing the appreciation on, and trying to keep that sort of genre alive, really, because I think it would be a real sin if people didn't keep catching up with this show. Maybe people who've never seen it before. It translates very well into today's world.
Yep.
And I think
better in some episodes, which is a little spooky.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of episodes recently and thought, oh my God, this is like today. So, there's some of the writing from people like Joe Malosi and others. It's so tight and so well done that it just really holds up. Mm-hmm. And they should be super proud of that. Mm-hmm. And I hope they are. I mean, those guys are legends. 100%. So it really is superb. But I think, ultimately for me, it's what can we do to have fun in the franchise, and it connects you with other fans, which is always a lot of fun. And, whenever we sort of tweak some new model or something, you always get lots of really interesting comments. And it's
interesting is sometimes the word.
Yeah, I mean, you'll always get somebody. You'll always get somebody who'll point out that the blueprint didn't have the right macula generator in the right pier and stuff. You always get that, right? You always get that. And I kind of always celebrate that a little bit, because, wow, people paid enough attention to point that out to me. So I'm always very appreciative, actually. It's the opposite of what people might expect. But
what are you revealing? What are you working on next? Are you willing to say? I know what it is. I think it's awfully darned ambitious. What are you doing next?
I am making the Stargate Atlantis Gate big. A big version of this, an electronic version of this.
But the full ring or most of it?
The full ring.
The real one wasn't even full. Okay.
Yeah, the full ring. It'll probably be between 2 and 3 feet wide. So it's quite big. You're going to need a bigger wall. But I told you to get another house.
Where are you going to put it? How would you ship that to me?
I'm going to design a big box. It's going to come in a crate.
Where would it go? Where would I put it in here?
That's a good question. That I'm not sure.
I don't know where I could put it. I could do a whole episode on it for sure, but I think it might have to be in my living room. And that's an awful lot. The dining room too. That's an awful lot of work, Martin. But I mean, what is the impetus for that thing next? Are you wanting to challenge yourself electronically? You want to use new
No,
materials?
'cause
That gate was a rubber gate largely on the outside.
Yeah. Well, when I came to visit you and we had a look at the SGU gate, I thought it was so darn impressive. I thought I need to make a gate of my own, and I had done all these models, like the puddle jumpers and all of those sort of things, and I've never done a gate. And some people out there have done fantastic versions of it. Really,
Yeah, chevrons and maybe one or two glyphs on the other side, and some of them getting the color diffusion right through the chevrons. Getting it exactly right. To the naked eye is one thing, and then on film is something else. But some of them are just gorgeous.
Yeah, some people have done. There's some folks in France, of course, have done some amazing stuff there.
Yep, those Frenchies again.
Yes, they're very dedicated, and I adore that. So I'm doing that. It's in the CAD design phase. I've got about half of it done. It's looking pretty good. So then I'll design the other half. So if you take the gate, there's the front, and then there's the back.
Yep.
And then there's the middle.
Yep.
So there's, in a sense, kind of 2.5 to 3 gates inside one gate.
Yep.
If you think about it in that respect. So I'm going to do that, and then it needs a DHD. And I have wanted to do a DHD for a long, long time. So
one of these?
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to do one of those. I'm probably going to start off with the Milky-Way DHD, and then I'm going to move to the Atlantis one.
What are you thinking? 1/4 scale?
Well, it'll be in scale with the 3-foot gate. So
the 3-foot gate, that's got to be 1/4 scale or 1/3 scale.
Yeah, I worked it out based on how much room I had to hang it on the wall.
Because the Stargate is 22 feet across.
Yes.
So
this one's not 22 feet. You'll be so relieved to know this.
Yes, I wouldn't put it past you.
Garage door. So this one's not that big. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I say that now because I'm only halfway through the design, but by the end I'll be going, this is driving me nuts. But the electronics and stuff I've got sorted out already. So I've already worked out the code and stuff like that. It's not finished, but I've worked out how it works and what have you. The real problem for it is, does it mount on the wall, or do we build a platform for it? Because now the platform's going to be, like if we made one of the platforms that we've just done for, Master Replicas gate, well, oh my God, that's going to be big now. So, and then at that point, all of these lights will have to light up. And so there's,
I wouldn't. You want my advice? I'd love to mount it on a wall. Do a space gate. Do a space gate with the 3 pods.
Oh yeah, the 3 pods. That's a good idea.
And they light themselves. And I always wondered what was in those darn pods. Probably like a giant solar collector. But I would do it that way, because then you could have the excuse of putting it on the wall. Are you going to do a puddle for the middle of it?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I might, but if I do that, it might be photographic.
Baby steps, Martin. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Well, you were the one who said to me, "Is it going to have? I think it's going to have an iris." Remember the other gate?
I've seen physical gates that are about yay big, where someone has created an iris that disappears. I don't know how they're doing it, but they actually willed it into reality. It's really amazing.
There is. I know how they create it. It's thick though. It's like the camera lens sort of aperture to open close. It's like fan blades. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of complicated to get it to work mechanically. It works though. You can do it, but it really would, somehow put a lot of thickness in the gate.
Yeah.
So,
and there's always that last time. So I wouldn't really want to do it for, like with Jaren's gate. I don't make it spin very often. He made it so that I can just toggle it on and off, and that's fine. So, yeah.
What I'm going to do is, I think it's currently 660 centimeters wide, and it can scale to any size.
Yep.
So if we want to make it bigger, we can do that. That's the beautiful thing about this. These models can scale up. Scaling down is not always easy. Scaling up is super easy.
Yeah.
So
because more detail is revealed the larger you go.
Yeah, and that's actually the reason that I'm doing this gate, because a lot of people have done amazing jobs at it, but unless the gate's a certain size, you don't get to appreciate all the detail. And that's what I'm going after. I want people to see the detail that went into this amazing design, and bring it to life. And I thought if I made it smaller, if I made it like, say, AKA the Master Replicas gate size, or even just twice as big, you wouldn't really see the detail the same way. Size makes a difference in this. So that's the plan at the moment. And the other plan is to modify this. So a little Malp from a couple of years ago. So that's getting a makeover big time. It's getting lights and sound and moving dish, and it'll be remote control as well. So you'll be able to drive around. Yeah, that one's going big. That one's getting a big makeover. I was trying to work out the other night how to put a small camera into the front so that it could beam it back, but I don't know if that might be a bit ambitious. So I've redesigned.
Nanny cam. What is this? What is this? Is this an nanny cam? No, not at all. It's a Malp.
No, of course not. I did for a moment, though. I should digress for a moment. I did think I was going to make one and send it to you, which was about 1.5 to 2 feet in size, and I thought that'd be perfect for the living room at David's house.
Oh my gosh!
I thought that's big. Can you imagine that sort of that size? I don't know what scale that is at that point, but it's pretty big. So, yeah, remote control that size.
Wow. I sold the original one. It was fun to drive. We would get on the back of it and ride it like a horse. So not on top of it, but on back of it there was a ledge that you could stand on and move it.
Yeah,
so
there's that ledge down there at the back.
That's the one. Yes, that's it. We could stand on that and move it around. It was actually much more stable when one of us stood on it when we drove it. So you would just there was 2 batteries on it, and you just plugged in one when you were done with it, and switched them out. So Martin, we could go on for hours. I really appreciate your work as a designer, as an engineer, as a human being. You have created some really amazing, terrific stuff, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next for all of us to enjoy. So it means a lot always to have you.
Well, David, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to sit and chat to not only my good friend, but also a fellow fan. So it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Anything you need, you know where I am.
I need a new house. We'll see.
I told you needed a new house.
Oh gosh, I thought you were kidding.
I told you. Remington agreed. It's time to get a bigger place.
Gosh.